Здравствуй, люди! Меня зовут CossackHetman. Hello everybody, my name is CossackHetman, and today I'm making a video response to Metatron's video on knife fighting, in particular when he's talking about the practicalities of wearing chainmail armor for modern day protection. Now, as you well know, that I work in the security industry for many years in many different countries in both Western Europe and North America. So I know the rules and the laws, as well as the type of equipment that's available to modern day guardians and watchmen. And I'd like to compare it to the historical equipment. So chainmail compared to stab-proof vests. So if you work in the industry, you know that certain sites require certain different types of equipment. If they're more worried about ballistic defense and high-profile sites like that, then they'll be using Kevlar vests, of course, and that's a completely different level of protection towards knives, and I don't want to compare that because it doesn't really compare. So let's focus on the equivalents. So in the security industry, the equivalents are essentially the stab-proof vests that are ceramic plates or metallic plates. Those are the two that are most common. And there's exterior carriers, and then there's the ones that I have, which are interior carriers. That way you don't know necessarily that someone is wearing it. That way it's less of an intimidation factor. So let's compare this right now. So, comparing the modern day armor, the ceramic plates, I'll put a picture up here of exactly how they're laid out. But essentially, what they really are good at doing is stopping fine point weaponry and blunt force trauma. That's where I think the first main difference with chainmail occurs, especially against a really good quality chainmail, the riveted type like Metatron is talking about. It definitely is really amazing at stopping slashes, stabs, the knife component, the cutting component. This is exactly what it was built for. Comparatively, this armor is very good at stopping knife penetration and knife cuts as well. However, there is a big problem with the current armor in terms of there's a lot of deflection because these are plates. It acts somewhat similar to plate armor. So you have to worry about where the knife is going to go. Sometimes, this material is very tactile. Not very tactile, so it just slides. So if you're able to see it coming, move your body accordingly in a defensive manner. Try and guide where the blade is going to go, and keeping in mind your hand placement. However, just like Metatron said, if you're getting in a knife fight, all the experts know, the true experts know, that you are not coming out of that fight unscathed without any injuries. You're not a superhero. Okay? And that's something you have to understand. Something with this armor as well that I think comparatively makes it weaker choice than chainmail is the fact of the coverage. Here, we are only covered to our belt position, and even then there's a small gap in the gut. And if you know it's coming and you're careful, you can tuck that into the belt. You're not going to be hurt. However, if you're not prepared for it, that is a thing that can happen. Now, what I was talking about, the deflections, I've seen it happen to a compatriot of mine where someone went in ice pick. They're trying to get in here into the heart. He was able to see it coming, deflect it down, but it went down straight into his leg. He was out for 2 days. He got it fixed, but he was able to come back to work. Did it protect him against being stabbed? Not really, no. It deflected, went down, caused him an injury. But it probably saved his life from getting stabbed down into the heart. So this is what I'm talking about, coverage. Mail is form-fitting. That's what gives it such a great advantage, especially if you got the full sleeve one. Versus this, this material, none of this is plates. This is all just fabric. Same all the way here, whole inch, not just where this is, like to here. Perhaps by doing this, I can outline where the plates are better. That's what you have to really worry about. So you're worried about stabs and pokes coming in under the armpits that will go through to your lungs and perhaps even farther, depending on the length of the blade. Likewise to the throat, down into the heart, back of your neck, and like I said, the sides. And one important thing, if you're in the industry, pay close attention. you have to make sure that this is nice and tight so that these two plates overlap, so that you have protection against anything that might go through. I've seen a lot of guys on their first day, because it's hot, it's very tight, they loosen this, they loosen this, and then, the plates are not overlapping there anymore, and then, goes right through. I shouldn't have done that so hard. Yeah, it'll go right through, and then what's the point? Then your protection is gone. It needs to be tight to keep the defensive rating, especially against blunt force. This is where I think this armor is maybe a little bit better than mail armor, is defending by itself blunt force trauma, especially the type of injuries of internal bleeding and broken bones. So meat cleaver here, this is the best that I can do right now, but I'm fine. Didn't feel hardly any of that except a couple near the gut, and it's very light. It's like if someone slapped you. So this is where I think if you're being attacked by multiple assailants with blunt force trauma and perhaps bats and improvised weapons like this, this might be a little bit better for you. So I think ultimately in the comparison, mail is better for its coverage, is better against slashing weapons, because it doesn't have as much deflection, because it has give to it and it hugs the blade and then lets it slide along those metal rings. That's what the purpose is for, no? And then also in its weight and lack of restriction of movement. This restricts your movement to purely lateral movements and then hinge motions. And it's very restricting. It's very hot, especially when most people in the industry work 12-hour shifts. And by the time you rip this off, you're glad to get out of there. So there's that issues. And then I think, now I'm talking about blunt force trauma and injuries and the defendability of that. Now, that can be easily increased or made up for with mail armor by just wearing more layers of clothing and proper layers of clothing. For example, like a leather jacket, like I was wearing, like poofy clothing, especially if you're in winter. Something that is appropriate to those lines. I think you can then make up for some of those shortcomings that come with the mail. The only other thing I could think of is this is good against needle defense versus mail. Because exactly, you can still potentially make it through those fine spaces with a needle and get through. Perhaps it will not be lethal, but the thing we have to worry about so much in this day and age, especially with the drug users, is HIV, Hep C, those type of infectious diseases and contaminations that could occur from that. It won't. The injuries you sustain in that fight might not be life-threatening, but then they will have lifelong implications for you. So this is another aspect where perhaps the mail does not win in that category. The next big thing that we'll talk past the tactical and layout differences is availability. So availability to the public is very limited for this type of equipment. In Canada and the United States, you have to have a security license in order to be wearing or get this at all. And typically your company will be providing this to you, and they get an industry discount as well as a bulk order discount for ordering this type of equipment. So that's the next thing I want to talk about, is pricing. Okay, so full riveted mail shirt can go anywhere from 200 Canadian dollars to perhaps 400 Canadian dollars, depending on who's making it, all these type of factors. Okay, and comparatively, these vests are 85 Canadian dollars to 120 Canadian dollars. The Kevlar vests are much more expensive. They're close to like $1,000 a piece. So that's the difference, and that's probably why we see the current equipment that we do, is because this is easy to produce, cheap, affordable for the companies. So that's why. And the reason why, so availability, reason why citizens are not able to wear this, and wherever you are on the political spectrum, that's the major difference. I'm going to try to be just mainly objective. And essentially this is considered a weapon or something that is aggressive in nature, because why are you wearing this if you're going out, out on the town in the streets, it's because you're expecting to run into trouble and you're expecting to do something about it. I highly disagree with this notion, because, this is the problem where you run into, defending yourself and you get in trouble for hurting someone else to defend yourself. I've gone to court a couple times from people breaking their hands, punching me, not knowing that I had this underneath, having incorrect wrist positions, and mainly breaking their fingers, but one person broke their wrist as well. And then have to go to court and defend, why did I break this person's hand, even though it wasn't me, it was the equipment. And I'm a person who, I was a security officer at the time, in the position I was supposed to be in, wearing the equipment I'm supposed to be wearing, and doing what I was supposed to be doing in that situation. I still have to go to court and justify that situation. So, if you're a normal person, accessibility to this type of equipment is highly restricted, highly regulated. And then also, even security guards who do have security guard licenses, you cannot go out and wear this off shift just in the public. You'll get in so much trouble. You will get that license gone immediately, and then probably criminal charges against you. So that's the tough thing about it. But just from curious perspective, and just to compare the new world with the old world, I have to say that ultimately I would really like to go with chainmail underneath perhaps something like this as an additive, or just having more layers on. And so I think, although it being more expensive, although it not having blunt force defensive rating and fine weapon point defense capabilities, I think chainmail still wins in so many other categories in terms of availability, legal capacity to use it, wear it. Although there are some places in the world where you'll still get in trouble, or at least questions will be asked in terms of why you have it, why you're wearing it, and perhaps where it is illegal. And then definitely chainmail wins in terms of keeping physical mobility, the weight comparison, especially if you have metal plates. This is ceramic, but metal plates is actually very heavy because it's all condensed in small area. So I think chainmail wins in terms of full body coverage for all your vital areas, as well as keeping physical mobility as high as it possibly can be. So I think that still overall, chainmail is a really good decision to have. And like Metatron said, if you have a flashlight that has high frequency flash mode on it, I tell you that saved my life a couple times. Okay, so I believe if you're able to put in the investment to have some chainmail, good chainmail, along with something like a flashlight or whatever legal intermediate weaponry you're allowed to carry in your country, I think that's a very good decision for self-defense if you're worried about encountering certain violent situations that you may come up against. So I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope it was informative, and I hope it was fun. If there's any other questions or comments, by all means let me know, and I'll be glad to explain it a little bit further. As always, strength and honor, Silai Chesva, Baka.